We have all been lied to. Mainstream media loves to paint the FIFA World Cup as this beautiful, joyful carnival of sports. But if you actually peel back the layers, it is a century-old thriller packed with dark secrets, political warfare, backstabbing, and literal crimes. Today, we are opening the secret vaults. Forget the sanitized PR version. This is the raw, unfiltered, 17-chapter evolution of the World Cup from 1930 to 2026. Let us flash back to 1930. The very first World Cup in Uruguay was almost dead before it even started. Why? Because European teams straight up refused to travel. To save the tournament, players from France, Belgium, and Romania had to crowd onto a single steamship called the SS Monteverde. Picture this: 15 days crossing the Atlantic. No gym, no training fields. Players were literally running laps on greasy wooden decks and kicking balls straight into the ocean. By the time they hit the docks in Montevideo, half of them were severely seasick, starved, and completely out of shape. But the chaos of 1930 gets crazier. The ultimate hero of that tournament was Uruguay's star forward, Héctor Castro. Now, what the textbooks conveniently leave out is that Castro played the entire tournament with only one arm. He had accidentally amputated his right forearm with an electric saw when he was just 13. Critics said a one-armed guy would get absolutely slaughtered in the brutal, lawless tackling of 1930s football. Guess what? In the 89th minute of the grand final, Castro scored the crushing winning goal. Absolute legend. Then World War II hits and football grinds to a halt. But behind the scenes, a secret war was being fought over the solid gold trophy. Adolf Hitler's Nazi regime was completely obsessed with it, planning to seize it as a trophy of Aryan supremacy. Enter Ottorino Barassi, the vice president of FIFA. In a wildly ballsy move, he smuggled the trophy out of a Roman bank vault right under the noses of Italian fascists. He stuffed the golden statue into a beat-up old shoebox and hid it under his bed for 7 long years. The Gestapo raided his house multiple times, but they never thought to check under his mattress. When you think of Brazil, you immediately picture that iconic, blinding yellow and green jersey, right? Well, shocker. Until 1950, Brazil actually wore pure white. That changed forever during the infamous Maracanazo tournament. Brazil choked and lost the final to tiny Uruguay in front of 200,000 stunned fans. The psychological trauma was so severe that the public declared the white jersey cursed and unpatriotic. The government literally banned the color white from football and held a national contest to design a completely new kit. That is how the yellow jersey was born, out of pure national shame. Think modern football is aggressive because of a few slide tackles? You haven't seen the Battle of Santiago in 1962? The match between Italy and Chile instantly turned into a full-scale, unhinged street war. The very first foul happened just 12 seconds in. By the 8th minute, players were throwing wild left hooks, fracturing noses, and spitting in faces. The referee completely lost control, and armed police had to storm the pitch 4 separate times just to arrest players and stop a full-on riot. Fun fact, this exact match is the reason FIFA had to invent red and yellow cards. Months before the 1966 World Cup kickoff, England fell into a massive national panic. The solid gold trophy was stolen from a high-security exhibition in London. Scotland Yard launched a huge manhunt, but had absolutely zero leads. The English FA was completely humiliated on the world stage. Then, a regular guy named David Corbett was walking his dog, Pickles, in South London. Pickles sniffed out a random package wrapped in old newspaper under a garden hedge. Boom! It was the missing trophy. Pickles became an instant global celebrity and was officially invited to the Winners' Gala as a VIP guest. Before 1970, football matches were pure linguistic chaos. Referees spoke English, players spoke Spanish or German, and nobody knew what the hell was going on when someone got penalized. Massive fights broke out because of the language barrier. Then came Ken Aston, a British referee. He was sitting at a red traffic light in London when he had a massive epiphany. Yellow means caution, red means stop. Universal colors that do not need translation. He pitched it to FIFA, and in 1970, penalty cards were introduced, changing sports psychology forever. To most casual fans, Diego Maradona's infamous Hand of God goal against England in 1986 is just viewed as a cheap cheat or a massive referee blind spot. But you need to understand the context. Just 4 years earlier, Argentina and Britain fought the brutal Falklands War, where hundreds of young Argentine soldiers were killed. That match wasn't just a game, it was fueled by intense geopolitical hatred. Maradona later confessed that punching that ball into the English net did not feel like cheating. It felt like picking the pocket of an Englishman to avenge his fallen countrymen. The 1994 World Cup, hosted right here in the United States, ended in the most horrific tragedy in sports history. Colombian defender Andres Escobar accidentally scored an own goal against the US squad, which knocked Colombia out of the tournament. Just 10 days after returning home to Medellin, Escobar was surrounded in a dark parking lot and brutally shot 6 times. The most sickening part? Witnesses reported the killers shouted, "Goal!" for every single bullet they fired. A dark, brutal reminder of what happens when sports fanaticism mixes with cartel violence. In 2014, Germany absolutely demolished Brazil 7-1 on Brazilian soil. To outsiders, it was just a terrible game. To Brazil, it was a full-blown national collapse. The very next day, national productivity plummeted by 60%. It became the most heavily discussed social media event in human history up to that point, generating over 35 million tweets in just 90 minutes. That single match shattered the country's national pride so severely that historians actually link it to the country's massive political and economic depression that followed. Fast forward to Qatar, 2022. This was the most absurdly expensive sporting event ever staged in human history, costing an astronomical $220 billion. But history will only remember it for one thing: the crowning of Lionel Messi. In a breathless, heart-stopping 3-3 thriller against France, Messi finally lifted the golden chalice. The debate was over. The holy grail of football had found its true owner, wrapping up a 20-year storyline in front of billions of live viewers.